Ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha. One of the largest concerns facing us in the digital age is protecting our devices against malware, phishing attempts, and making sure our data remains secure. However, we've been seeing more than a few indie developers include data miners and tracking software with their games that are so poorly implemented that it actually requires us to make our systems more vulnerable just to be able to play the game we've paid for. As always, let's run through the facts of the matter first, and then I'll provide my take on the information at hand. Links to any sources used are available in the description down below. The video game in question is called Breach. It is a third-person 4v1 asymmetrical shooter game that is in early access on Steam, and under normal circumstances would have probably escaped my notice, as it's not really the style of game I usually go for. However, it was brought to my attention that the game was data mining people's PCs. And when you look at the recent reviews of the game, you'll see that multiple people have posted negative reviews of the game citing data mining concerns. And I'm going to admit that I had an extremely stupid moment where I spent nearly 20 minutes researching some of this information, only to find the exact same details that were already listed and present within the negative reviews. But hey, at least I was able to self-verify, so nothing wrong with that, I suppose. There are a few key pieces of information that can be gleaned from the user reviews that match what I was able to suss out on my own computer. First, we have the review by Walker Bow, in which they describe how they were not even able to log into the game without whitelisting mpsnare.iesnare.com in their firewall. They continued on to state that the launcher.exe also scours Windows jump lists and reads the directories and files on the system that have nothing whatsoever to do with the game. The developers responded to this review and every single other review discussing this issue with a copy-pasted response in which they stated that they use certain systems to identify player regions, and they claim that in regards to the local files that has to do with authentication and crash reporting, stating and reiterating that the game is in early access. The developers also state that none of the data they are collecting is meant to spy on the player or grabbing personal data, and that last bit is key. They state that they are not grabbing personal data. Let's move on to the user review posted by Donicton. The review that I should have read before I began my own investigations, as it would have saved me a significant amount of time as I found the exact same information. This user again cites the spyware IESnare is embedded in the game. So what exactly is IESnare? Well, IESnare is a spyware tool created by a company named Aidosyne. It is most commonly used by gambling sites to gain an advantage over their patrons by tracking identification data about your computer. It collects browser and operating system information. It collects information from your computer's registry. It reports your browser history, and it can even detect the amount of time spent on websites. Also, as per the Steam user Walker Bow, the IESnare system also checks your Windows jump lists. Now, Windows jump lists are a form of application and document history that can provide a lot of data about you as a person. And just to be careful, I did run a full Wireshark on my system while the game was running, and I didn't find any nefarious sites being communicated with, just some Amazon AWS servers, which are the game servers. But all that tells us is most likely the game isn't engaged in any obvious forms of malicious activity or crypto mining, although when I checked the GPU load, this game essentially maxed out my 1080 Ti at 2K resolution and consumed about 40% of the CPU with the graphics turned all the way down. And so those are the facts as I'm currently aware of them, and, well, I'm not pleased. IESnare is designed to track a massive amount of personal data in order for gambling websites to maintain an edge against those that frequent their sites, and also to provide targeted advertising as well. No video game should contain such an invasive form of spyware for any reason whatsoever. The developers' assertions that they're only checking region data, log collecting, and basic system information is disingenuous at best and malicious at worst. Given it is very easy to find exactly what sort of information this tracking system collects, I find it highly unlikely and even more highly suspect that the developers so readily ignore player concerns and resort to a hand-wave dismissal over the whole ordeal. We've seen a lot of disconcerting things with indie games in recent days. Literal crypto miners, scammers attempting to pawn off counterfeit digital items on the Steam marketplace, asset flippers galore, and an ever-increasing number of indie games that collect far more information from your system than they have any right to. The main problem is rooted in the basis of an assumption or a requirement of tracking information and what is tantamount to requiring gamers to accept an invasion of privacy with every single game purchased. Yes, I get the game is in early access. That does not, however, give you the right to scour my computer in an insecure manner in order to collect as much impertinent data as possible. Now, I would strongly urge the developers of Breach to remove this tracking system from their game and adopt a stance that is far less invasive. Yes, the game is in early access, I get that. But let me ask some rhetorical questions for a moment. Now, does the game need to use a tracking system to obtain the PC's IP address? They state that the tracking system is there for region awareness, so maybe it's needed for that. Okay, well, let's unpack that for a little bit. We know via their terms of service they use easy anti-cheat, so the tracking system isn't for that. But let's talk about region awareness. Now, some would say that Steam has region awareness for matchmaking built right in, and they would be correct. However, per my network scans, I saw that the game's servers are running on Amazon AWS. Well, maybe they need the tracker in order to sniff the IP for region matching and region locking, as they don't run on Steam's systems. But you also have to remember that the game has a launcher. You have to create an account to log in, and you have to log in before you play the game each and every single time. Why would they need such an invasive data mining system to provide them with information they are easily able to obtain literally every single time a person logs into their game? But what about VPN tunnels? Well, the data miner won't help with that. Once the public network traffic is encapsulated, you're not going to be seeing it until it comes from the VPN's endpoint, and you won't see what's contained within that encapsulated traffic unless you conduct a man-in-the-middle attack, which this data miner is not doing. So that excuse flies right out the window. Even if you try to claim legal reasons, the result is the same. You have their IP when they log in. It is not a legal violation on your part if they use a VPN tunnel to mask their location, and IESnare will do nothing to aid in that anyways. So what other reasons are there? Well, there's logging for the purposes of bug fixing. This is an early access game, as the developers are so fond of pointing out multiple times. However, people that buy your game on early access do so in order to pay money to help with development of a game that they're interested in, and most likely will stop playing well before the game is ever completed. They do not, however, do so with the expressed intention of allowing the developers free rein into their systems to collect registry data, file system data, browsing history, and even the Windows jump lists. That is going well beyond what any game developer should ever access nor want to access. Furthermore, I cannot abide the opt-out or you must abide by if you want to play requirements in these scenarios. These developers know they will get far more data, which is why they do it, but they absolutely should be asking as opposed to requiring. Provide an opt-in system. You won't get everyone, but you will still get far more people's data than you deserve or have any right to. And at the same time, you have the added benefit of being customer forward and customer friendly for giving people the chance that if they want to provide you the data, they can. If they don't have to. IESnare is a disgusting system that should not have come within 100 miles of a video game, and I would urge gamers with every fiber of my being to avoid Breach like the plague until it is removed and a more pro-consumer system is implemented, or better yet, no system at all. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I am SidAlpha, and I'll see you next time.